Welcome. Hi, my name is Rob Smith, and I want to introduce Scott Nelson, who is an AI god, knows more about AI than just about anybody on the planet. And he's going to give you a great lecture about what you really need to know about AI today. Scott, I turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, today we're going to talk about what's going on in the AI space and the confusion that a lot of organizations are suffering from right now because everything is AI. Every meeting they go to tells them they should be doing AI. Every vendor claims they have an AI embedded solution. And a lot of organizations that I'm talking to are indicating they just don't know what's going on, where to start, and they're very confused. So we're going to spend a little time talking about how you can avoid using AI to just create more and more of the same slop you're creating already from something, say, customers or employee related, but doing it so it's more targeted, as opposed to actually using AI to fundamentally transform your business. Now, it wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't have definitions, but don't worry. In the AI space, we could have pages and pages of definitions. We're not going to spend time talking about reg or zero shot or embeddings, anything like that, but there are a few key words we need to understand. First off, what exactly is the difference between AI, Gen AI, and agentic AI? Well, first of all, AI is like a detective. It spots patterns and trends and predicts what will happen next. In a sense, it's nothing more than what we've always known in autocorrect on our phones, just blown up on steroids. It tries to figure out what should happen next, and it recommends actions based on that. Generative AI doesn't just recognize patterns, it creates new things. It does the writing, the designing, the composing, or the imagining based on what's learned. And this is where hallucinations come in, which we're not going to spend time on today, but is a big area that we could easily do a whole webinar on. And then agentic AI is like an assistant. It doesn't stop at just creating ideas, it acts on them. It can take the initiative, make decisions, carry out tasks to achieve a goal. Now, when I talk to a lot of firms, I'll say, okay, what are you doing? Are you doing AI? Are you doing Gen AI? Are you doing agentic AI? And they'll go, yes, which tells me right away they don't know what they're doing. They simply have kind of drunk the Kool-Aid that they should be doing AI of some sort, and they're just jumping in and often don't know what they're going to get for their effort. MIT put out a fascinating study that showed 95% of all AI initiatives to date are being judged as failures by the organizations that are doing them. 95%. There's no other area of technology that if you said it had a 95% failure rate wouldn't collapse under its own weight. In this webinar, we're going to talk about 6 misconceptions about how these failures are occurring and how stepping back from where a lot of organizations are right now will actually help you create a stronger foundation, a smarter investment, and more lasting AI value. These are just 6 misconceptions. I could easily do 20 misconceptions, 100 misconceptions, probably even more than that, but we're going to take 6 of the most important ones. Now, the problem that people are suffering, organizations are suffering from when it comes to AI is that just the speed of change is mind-numbing. I have never seen an area, none of us have, in technology that is changing as rapidly as AI. There are literally thousands of advancements per day in the AI space. It's evolving faster than organizations can absorb. The velocity is outpacing the understanding for most organizations, and adaptation must be continuous. It can't be sort of, well, what was done last year in this space, that's what we're going to do. It's a matter of saying what's going to happen next month, next year, or even 5 years from now. It really is requiring organizations to learn almost as fast as the AI itself can. And to put in another perspective, who thinks any of this is going to slow down? It's just going to get faster and faster. So what are the 6 myths that we're going to talk about? And I'm just going to spend really a slide or two on each of these, and then we'll take about a half hour total, and then we'll have time for any questions that might come up. First off, myth 1, AI is the silver bullet. This is the idea that any problems you've had in your organization, if we put AI in place, the models will fix all of our complex challenges. Suddenly our supply chain will have no kinks in it. Suddenly our ERP environment will be super efficient. Suddenly our customers will respond to every marketing effort that we put out there. And obviously this is not the case. Second myth, we need our own LLM. For those not familiar with the terminology, it's a large language model. This is what ChatGPT and others basically do. They pull huge amounts of information from the internet and they build this large model. And these organizations equate that training this foundation model, creating the LLM for their organization, is a strategy, when in fact it's not. The third myth is that a proof of concept is success. They think that if they can do a demo, and usually the vendor that they're talking to has done a demo for them, that now they can scale that and they will have a solution, when in reality, the proof of concept is only a start. It does not equal success. Fourth myth, and this is a big one that people fall into all the time. More data guarantees better AI. Organizations confuse volume of data with usable governed data. And in many cases, their AI will actually be better if they have less data. Fifth myth, AI strategy is an IT problem. This is a common issue in the IT industry overall, where the business side always thinks these things are the IT department's issues. But when it comes to AI especially, if you ignore the culture, the ownership, and the business alignment of the business side of the house and make an IT problem, you're heading for failure. And finally, myth 6, if it works now, it will work later. There's a big problem in AI, which is called drift. And this drifting and regulations and ecosystem shifts are going to cause your AI to get out of sync very rapidly, especially in a space that changes as fast as this does. So I'm going to look at each of these 6 myths, and then I'll also show you what I call the 8 building blocks of AI to give you a foundation to start on for moving forward in the AI space. Myth 1, AI is a silver bullet. There was a saying during the gold rush in California in the 1840s that said, only the people selling shovels were making money. This is kind of the case with AI right now. Everyone's racing into it. Everybody's trying to do something with AI. And the reality is the only ones making money are the people providing the chips and the people providing the software. Most organizations are not seeing any real benefits. AI does not magically solve your problems. It's simply a tool. Be careful of this idea that says that, once we've done AI, we now are a much more efficient 21st century organization. All you've done is done AI. In fact, many cases, AI is going to actually cause new and larger problems, such as data security and morale issues in your organization. And we're seeing this in many organizations right now. And it means that on the customer side, AI will often mean you can more quickly and more efficiently anger your customers than you could before, which is not obviously the goal. So first off, get away from this idea of thinking AI is going to be your silver bullet. It's simply a tool. Second myth, we need an LLM. Well, here's a surprise for you. You may need an SLM. An SLM is a small language model. It's a type of artificial intelligence that understands and generates language like a human, but it's designed to be smaller, faster, and more focused. Instead of trying to know everything about everything, an SLM is trained to be really good at a specific topic or task, like answering customer questions. So this is an example of where you may not want a big AI to run your whole organization. You may want an AI to run customer service, or you may have an AI that's driving your marketing effort. And they have a smaller model that they're built on that's much quicker, much more efficient, and most importantly, much cheaper. In simple terms, think of your SLM as a specialist. It doesn't try to be the smartest person in the world. It's just the best at what it's trained to do, and that's the key. Think of having an AI that knows individual departments and process flows. Now, some people say, oh my gosh, we thought it was hard enough putting one AI in place. You're talking about having a dozen for different departments. Yes, but each of those SLMs may be much easier to implement than the LLM was. And going forward, more and more organizations are going to realize that they need a number of SLMs for each of the individual departments instead of one big LLM. Here's a quick chart that summarizes the difference between them. And the second line is the most important, the purpose. A SLM will act like a specialist. It's good at one thing. It's better than having a generalist, which can talk generally about anything, but won't really give you a good answer. It's much faster, it's much less expensive, and it keeps your data much more contained and doesn't go out to external server or cloud systems. And as we are going to spend a lot more time worrying about AI data security, this is going to become much more important. Think of large language models like massive libraries. Small language models are like skilled experts. In many cases, that's really what you need to solve your problems. Myth 3. Proof of concept equals success. A proof of concept only proves the technology works. It doesn't deliver the value you need. Most POCs are controlled experiments. They ignore messy realities of scaling, integrating, and user adoption. So a lot of organizations spend a lot of time and effort on their proof of concept. Once they get it successfully installed, they literally walk away from it saying they're done. And then when somebody goes back and says, well, what value did you really get here? They have to admit they can't really point to any value. Don't mistake technical feasibility for business readiness. Just because you installed a piece of software does not mean that you've solved this problem. True AI success requires rethinking data quality, process design, and governance. Myth 4, more data equals better AI. This is what I call data poisoning. Quantity can't fix poor quality. Feeding a model more inconsistent, biased, or irrelevant data only makes it confidently wrong at scale. You want to make sure that you're spending time on the underlying data, getting it clean, making sure it's quality data, and it's staying clean. One of my favorite quotes is, AI doesn't fix bad data, it weaponizes it. Many organizations right now, the AI is weaponizing your bad information. One organization made a quote to me once where they said, well, our data can't be that bad. We run our business on it. Yeah, but if you really look at it, you realize that you're running your business on very bad information in many cases. Myth 5, IT's problem, let them worry about it. The reality is IT is business transformation, not a technical project. Treating it as IT's responsibility limits it to an infrastructure issue. The real impact is strategy, process, and the customer experience. Ownership is going to drive true outcome. So you're going to need to have business units that are bought into AI and what they can do with it. And they're the ones that are really going to start to see what doors AI will open for them, what problems they can really solve that the IT department will just never understand because they're not close enough to it. Realize that IT success depends on context, not code. And myth 6, thinking that if it works now, it's going to work later. Well, this is a problem called drift. Data drifts, behaviors change, and over time, your very accurate AI may get less and less accurate. So you have to constantly be reinventing and retraining and monitoring the AI, making sure that your static success is not hiding dynamic failure. Sustained performance requires evolution, continuous feedback, an effective governance model, and recalibration are essential. AI that isn't maintained will become obsolete faster than you realize. So where do you go with this? Well, I like to talk about the 8 building blocks of AI. What the 8 building blocks of AI really talks about is the idea that you're going on a journey. And what I mean by this, if you told me tomorrow, yep, I've decided that I'm going to take a vacation, I'm going on a trip. That piece of information doesn't really tell me anything and doesn't solve anything. You're going to have to answer a number of questions along the way in order to get to your eventual destination. So if you think of it as these 8 building blocks, these are the kinds of questions you're going to have to answer. First of all, your vision for this. What's your destination? It's going to make a big difference if you're going to Copenhagen, Chicago, or Calcutta. Your destination is going to determine many of the other decisions you're going to have to make. So the first thing with AI is, what's your vision for it? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're just putting in AI because it seems like the in vogue thing to do, you're not going to know if you're going to Copenhagen or Calcutta. Next is the strategy. This is really the map. Once you know you're going to Copenhagen, you can have a map that says, okay, where am I and where is Copenhagen and what is in my way to get there? Well, if you live in the United States, you say what's in your way is a large ocean. So the first step is going to be figuring out from the map how you're going to overcome that ocean. The next thing is going to be your metrics. What are you measuring? So the compass, really what tells you when I walk out my front door, based on the map I've got, what direction am I going to have to go in order to overcome the obstacles in my way. Next is the customer experience. And the customer can be both the end customer, but could also be employees in the organization. And this is really your driver. This is the driver that's going to get you along on your map. It's going to what uses the compass in order to tell you where you're going. You're going to have to understand what this experience is like for your customer. There's a lot of people who, even if all they're doing is using a tool like ChatGPT, they don't really know how to use it. They don't know how to write a prompt. They don't know how to evaluate the data. They don't know how to find hallucinations. They don't know how to effectively leverage the tool. That's the customer experience. Then there's the organizational collaboration. You're talking about a tool that has the ability to cut across multiple departments of the organization, maybe the entire organization. These are your co-passengers on the trip. This is who you're going to Copenhagen with. So you're going to have to understand the implications. If suddenly customer service has an AI tool that's feeding information to, say, the sales department, how are those two relating to each other? And what kind of politics are you running into between one department and the other? Next is processes. This is really the engine that's going to have to propel you across that big ocean, whether it's by boat or by plane. Processes in most organizations are flawed. They may actually be broken. A lot of organizations have not really changed their processes significantly since about World War II. And if all you're going to do now is automate those processes, you're going to be in big trouble. So you have to examine your processes, really see where they're broken, where they're flawed, and streamline them or change them completely for the age of AI. Then from the IT alignment, the information and insight, or the data. This is what fuels your trip. This is what fuels your AI model. Back to my point about AI weaponizing data. How good is it really? How good is your customer data? How good is your product data? How good is your supply chain data? How good is your financial data? Because that's now being magnified by the AI and is going to completely disrupt your organization if it hasn't been cleaned. And how is it going to stay clean? What's your governance model? And then finally, the piece that most people spend the most time with, the technology. This is your vehicle. This is the car you get in at the beginning of your trip. But the technology is only going to get you so far. At the end of the day, if you don't have the right technology, it's going to fail you. If you're trying to automate the wrong aspects of what you're doing with the wrong technology, it's going to fail. So you're going to have all 8 of these in place to effectively attack your AI journey. Most organizations I talk to, they're happy to talk technology, but the other 7, they're not very adept at it. And they're often, you get a deer in the headlights stare when you start to talk about these. So a summary on that aspect, realize that your biggest failures in AI will come from human assumptions, not machine limitations. Realize that in many cases, there's a misunderstanding about how AI can truly change your business. Technology really is not the hard part. Transformation is. Data quality, process clarity, ownership, adaptability all matter far more than the model itself. And winning at AI with AI means managing it as a living system, not a one-time project. Now, I said technology is what most people key in on, and that's where I get involved with a lot of clients. Realize that the right technology won't save you, but the wrong one can sink you. In other words, there are definitely vendors out there with solutions that are very good that will help you along. There are others that will help you fail. That's why at Lionfish, we've developed something called the Aquarium. This is a tool that uses both AI and knowledge from the experts that work here that put together an in-depth analysis of the different vendors in a market. This is a sample of some AI agentic solutions out there. There's a lot more than just this, obviously. But if you're struggling with trying to figure out who you might want to go with, give us a call at Lionfish. We'll be happy to take you through the aquarium and help you figure out how this tool can change your problems. This is a great quote that I saw from Stefan Nidovec in his book, The Data Culture Handbook. He says, technology isn't a strategy, it's just an accelerant. It multiplies what already exists. If your culture lacks clarity, empathy, and trust, AI isn't going to fix it. It's going to amplify the chaos. The best leaders don't chase the next tool. They ask better questions, they listen harder, and they align people around purpose. That's how real transformation starts. If you take this quote to heart when you're applying what you're doing in AI, step back from what you're doing right now and then start again with this perspective, you're much more likely to be successful and not part of that 95% that's failing. I want to thank you for your time. I'd be happy to talk with any of you further. Here's my email address. I also have a blog on LinkedIn that you're welcome to follow. It's a daily blog on AI matters, and I put something out there every morning. Be happy to share that with you. So with that, I'll turn it back to Rob and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Scott. I have a few questions in the chat, and if you haven't added one, please feel free to do so. First question comes from Jeff. What about hallucinations? Should that concern me?
The simple answer is yes, it should concern you, but probably not overly concern you. Hallucinations, if you're not familiar with the concept, is the fact that AI often comes up with information to try to answer your question that's just not true. And even OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, are trying to figure out why that happens. It's a big problem in the space overall. First of all, it will be solved. Second, it's not as big a problem as a lot of organizations think it is. It's a bigger issue when you're looking for things like references when you're doing deep research. It may make up a reference. So in a lot of cases, you need to check the reference to make sure it's right. There's also ways to write your prompts to try to eliminate hallucination. So it's a solvable problem, but it's not one that can be ignored. You just need to be conscious of it and take it into account in your planning.
Cool. Next one's from Lawrence. How do we separate real business value from the hype when every vendor claims to have AI? That's a really good question.
Yeah, that's again, that's part of what gets into the 8 building blocks. If you know what it is you're trying to solve, what your bigger vision is, what your strategy is to get there, then you can figure out how AI is really going to help you, as opposed to just saying, well, newest AI is like pumpkin spice. It's this time of year, and so it's going to show up in everything. That's not going to really solve any of your problems. You need to know what it is you're really trying to accomplish, and then you can have metrics to see what change are you really driving, and what impact are you having, and what's the real business value you're producing.
So Roy has a comment I agree with. Isn't the biggest risk not doing anything with AI while competitors move ahead with it?
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely,
Got it.
when I say your best thing to do right now in AI is stop, I don't mean stop forever. I mean stop to rethink what you're doing. AI is here to stay. AI is going to transform all of our businesses for good or bad. You need to figure out what it's going to do to your organization and how you use it most effectively. So yes, by all means, make sure that you've got a strategy going forward. But if you have a vision and a strategy for what AI can do in your organization, you're going to be successful when many of those other organizations are not. And that's really what you want to accomplish.
Okay. Karen wants to know, how can we tell whether our problem really needs AI or whether automation or analytics will do?
Yeah, that's a real good question. Usually the key is going to be one of speed and general, how many people in the organization need to be involved in the solution. Good analytics, good automation can solve a lot of your problems. But the problem is, as anybody who's been through automation initiatives in the past knows, those can take a long time. And once you get them in place, it's almost, you need another one, and you need another one. AI's speed of change and speed of adoption can definitely help you solve problems more quickly. But automation is a kind of a simple version of AI. So in a lot of organizations, it's all you need for a particular problem, but it's not going to be the only solution that you're going to want for many of these bigger problems.
We have a couple Johns on the call. John H is asking, with all the rapid changes in Gen AI, should companies build their own model or rely on existing platforms?
The answer basically is yes. You're going to need both. You're going to need existing platforms, but you are going to have to build your own models as well. trying to reinvent what's already been done by these large Gen AI companies is kind of silly. So you want to take advantage of the models they already have in place, but you want to layer that proprietary information, and that's part of where the SLMs come into play. Things that are really proprietary to your business. But that doesn't mean that something like a general ChatGPT model isn't extremely effective at answering large parts of the questions of the organization. But you're going to have both of those in place to really be successful.
And our last question comes from Rob. Rob wants to know, what can I learn in the aquarium about AI in the vendor space?
Well, part of what the aquarium really does is it's an AI tool that takes the knowledge that's in the head of people like myself and then overlays that on what the Gen AI models show us about the marketplace overall. So it cuts through a lot of the hype, it cuts through the marketing crap that's out there and overlays what's really important, what you know is working and not working, and allows you to quickly score kind of all the vendors against each other without the bias of, well, yeah, I like this vendor a lot, so I'm going to give them a little extra credit. And it allows you to understand the market in real time. There's no 6-month, 12-month, 10, 13-month delay in the data. It's all up to the moment. So the aquarium allows us to build markets very rapidly, allows us to keep them updated, and allows us to work with clients to understand exactly what's going on in the market space and why, there's say 15 vendors. 3 over here are great, but they don't line up well with you. 3 over here don't make any sense whatsoever. These vendors line up very well with what you want to do and are good choices to consider. And so that's where the power of the aquarium really comes from.
Thanks so much, Scott. That was really insightful. Enjoyed our talk today. It is available on replay. Please do share and tweet about it or comment about it on LinkedIn. Thanks so much. Have a great day now.
Thank you.